Hey everyone, welcome back. Ever noticed how two Scorpios can be like night and day? You've got one who's brooding and intense, another who's mysteriously charming, and then there's that third one who's drowning in their own emotions. They're all Scorpios, born just weeks apart, but it's like they're completely different people. Well, here's the thing. There's an ancient astrological concept that explains exactly why this happens. And once you understand it, every Scorpio you've ever met will suddenly make perfect sense. Today, we're diving into the 3 decans of Scorpio, but we're not sugarcoating anything. We're talking about the dark sides, the shadow traits, the parts of Scorpio that most astrology videos won't touch. These aren't just personality quirks. These are deep psychological patterns that can make or break relationships, careers, and lives. If you're a Scorpio or you know one, you need to hear this. Drop your birth date in the comments and I'll tell you which decan you fall into. Trust me, you're going to want to know. Let's get into it. Alright, first up, the Obsessive Avenger. October 23rd to November 2nd. If you were born in the first 10 days of Scorpio, listen carefully because this is about you. This decan is ruled entirely by Pluto and Mars, making it the most intense, the most powerful, and honestly, the most dangerous of all 3 Scorpio types. Think about that for a second. Mars is the planet of war, aggression, and raw primal energy. Pluto is the planet of death, transformation, and the underworld. When you combine these 2 forces, you don't get someone who's just passionate. You get someone who's capable of total destruction and complete rebirth. These Scorpios are the real deal, the full package of everything people fear about this sign. Here's where it gets dark. First, decan Scorpios have an obsessive quality that borders on dangerous. When they fixate on something or someone, they can't let go. It's not just determination, it's compulsion. They'll think about it when they wake up, when they're at work, when they're trying to sleep at night. Their minds become completely consumed, and this obsession can turn destructive fast. Maybe they're obsessed with a person who doesn't want them. Maybe it's a grudge they're holding. Maybe it's a goal they're chasing at the expense of everything else in their life. Whatever it is, they can't stop, and they won't stop until something breaks. The revenge aspect is real with these Scorpios, and it's not some petty, get you back next week kind of thing. No. These people will wait years if they have to. They'll plot, they'll plan, they'll smile in your face while they're carefully constructing your downfall. And here's the really scary part. They remember everything, every slight, every betrayal, every time you were late, every time you forgot something important. It's all filed away in their mental database, and they're keeping score. You might think you got away with something 5 years ago, but trust me, they didn't forget. They're just waiting for the perfect moment to remind you. This Mars-Pluto combination also makes them incredibly manipulative when they want to be. They understand power dynamics better than any other sign. They know exactly how to get under your skin, how to make you feel guilty, how to turn a situation to their advantage, and because they're so good at reading people, they can see your weaknesses before you even know you have them. They'll use emotional leverage, psychological tactics, whatever it takes to maintain control. Control is everything to them because deep down, underneath all that intensity, there's a fear of being vulnerable, of being hurt, of losing power. In relationships, this manifests as possessiveness that can suffocate their partners. They don't just want your love, They want to own you completely. They need to know where you are, who you're with, what you're thinking. Any hint of distance or independence feels like betrayal to them. And if you actually do betray them, if you break their trust, that's it. There's no coming back from that. They might stay with you, sure, but they'll never forget, and they'll make you pay for it in 1,000 small ways for the rest of your time together. The self-destructive tendency is strong here too. When these Scorpios can't direct their intensity outward, they turn it inward. They'll sabotage their own success because they don't feel worthy. They'll push away people who genuinely love them because they're terrified of being hurt first. They'll engage in risky behaviors, substance abuse, anything to feel something other than the constant intensity burning inside them. It's like they're addicted to their own pain, constantly picking at their wounds instead of letting them heal. But here's what most people don't understand about first decan Scorpios. This darkness exists because they feel everything so deeply. They're not evil, they're wounded. Every time they've been hurt, every time they've been betrayed, it's carved itself into their soul. They become hard because the world taught them that vulnerability equals weakness. They seek revenge because justice matters to them on a fundamental level. They're obsessive because when they love something, they love it with every fiber of their being. The path forward for these Scorpios is transformation, which is literally what Pluto is all about. They have to learn that true power comes from letting go, not holding on. That forgiveness is strength, not weakness. That vulnerability is courage, not cowardice. When they can channel that incredible intensity into healing instead of hurting, into creating instead of destroying, they become unstoppable. They're the ones who survive the unsurvivable, who rebuild from nothing, who help others transform their own darkness into light. But until they do that inner work, they remain trapped in cycles of obsession, revenge, and self-destruction. Now let's talk about the second decan, the Illusionist Manipulator, November 3rd to November 12th. If you're born in this range, you're a different breed of Scorpio entirely. This decan is influenced by Neptune and Jupiter, and that changes everything. Neptune is the planet of illusions, dreams, spirituality, and escapism. It's foggy, it's mystical, it's intoxicating. Combined with Scorpio's natural intensity, you get someone who's dangerously charismatic, someone who can make you believe absolutely anything. These are the Scorpios who don't need to force control. They seduce it out of you. They're magnetic in a way that's almost supernatural. People are drawn to them without understanding why. There's something hypnotic about their presence, something that makes you want to tell them your deepest secrets, trust them with your darkest fears. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous when they're operating from their shadow side. The manipulation with second decan Scorpios is subtle and sophisticated. They don't manipulate through aggression or intimidation like the first decan. They manipulate through charm, through creating emotional dependencies, through making you feel like they're the only person who truly understands you. They're masters of emotional illusion. They can make you feel like you're the most special person in the world one day, then completely withdraw the next, leaving you desperate for their attention again. It's a psychological game, and they're playing it whether they realize it or not. Here's where Neptune gets really dark. Escapism becomes their drug of choice. When reality gets too intense, when their own emotions become too much to handle, they check out. Maybe it's actual drugs and alcohol. Maybe it's fantasy. Maybe it's serial relationships where they're always chasing that initial high. They're addicted to transcendence, to anything that takes them out of their body and their pain. And because they're Scorpios, they don't do anything halfway. Their escapes become all-consuming. The spiritual bypass is huge with these Scorpios. They'll use spirituality, astrology, mysticism as a way to avoid dealing with real-world problems. They'll talk about manifesting and raising their vibration while their actual life is falling apart. They'll blame past lives or karmic debt instead of taking responsibility for their choices. They convince themselves and others that they're evolved, enlightened, operating on a higher plane, when really they're just avoiding the hard work of being human. In relationships, they create these beautiful illusions that aren't grounded in reality. They'll love bomb you with intensity, make you believe you found your soulmate, your twin flame, the person you've been waiting for your entire life. And they might even believe it themselves in that moment, but Neptune's influence means nothing is quite real with them. The person they showed you might not be who they actually are. The promises they made might evaporate like morning fog. They're shapeshifters, and even they don't always know which version of themselves is real. The deception runs deep because these Scorpios often deceive themselves first. They'll rewrite history to fit whatever narrative they need in the moment. They'll genuinely believe their own lies because Neptune blurs the line between truth and fiction in their minds. This makes them incredibly difficult to confront because they'll look you dead in the eye and deny something you both know happened. It's not always conscious manipulation. Sometimes they've actually convinced themselves of an alternative reality. Trust issues get complicated with this decan. Unlike the first decan who struggles to trust because they're afraid of being hurt, second decan Scorpios struggle to trust because they project their own capacity for deception onto others. They know how easy it is to manipulate reality, so they assume everyone else is doing it too. They're constantly looking for hidden meanings, secret agendas, proof that you're not who you say you are. And their intuition is so strong that they'll create evidence out of thin air, reading into things that don't exist. When these Scorpios are hurt, they don't seek obvious revenge like the first decan. Their revenge is more insidious. They'll ghost you, cutting you off without explanation and leaving you wondering what happened. They'll play the victim so convincingly that everyone takes their side. They'll use your vulnerabilities against you in ways that seem almost accidental. You'll never see it coming because they operate in the shadows, in the spaces between what's said and what's meant. The path to healing for second decan Scorpios requires brutal honesty with themselves. They need to get real about their patterns of escapism and face reality without filters or illusions. They have to learn that true spirituality isn't about transcending human experience, but fully embodying it, shadows and all. They need to ground their incredible intuition and creativity in something real, something tangible. When they can do this, they become incredible healers, artists, and guides. Their ability to navigate both the physical and spiritual realms becomes a gift instead of a curse. But until then, they remain lost in their own illusions, manipulating others and themselves, escaping instead of transforming. Finally, the third decan, the emotional vampire, November 13th to November 21st. If this is your birth range, I need you to really hear this because this decan might have the hardest shadow to face. You're influenced by the moon, which rules emotions, instincts, and our deepest needs. Combined with Scorpio's intensity, this creates someone who feels emotions with an intensity that most people can't even comprehend. Every feeling is amplified, every slight is magnified, every emotional wound cuts deeper than it should. You're not just sensitive, you're hypersensitive to the point where it can become pathological. Here's where the emotional vampire aspect comes in. Third decan Scorpios have such deep emotional needs that they can drain everyone around them. They need constant reassurance, constant validation, constant proof that they're loved. But here's the thing, it's never enough. You can give them everything, sacrifice your entire life for them, and they'll still find something to be heard about. They'll still find some way you failed them. It's exhausting for everyone involved, including them. The victim mentality is strong with this decan. Everything happens to them. They're always the one who's been wronged, abandoned, misunderstood. And look, often they have been genuinely hurt. Often they do have legitimate reasons for their pain, but they get stuck there. They build an identity around their wounds and trauma, and unconsciously, they need to keep that identity intact. So they seek out situations that confirm their worldview, relationships that hurt them, people who abandon them, because that's familiar, that's safe in its own twisted way. The possessiveness here is next level. Moon-influenced Scorpios attached to people like their life depends on it, because emotionally, they feel like it does. You're not just their partner or their friend. You're their emotional life support system. They'll call you constantly, need to know everything you're doing, create drama if you try to maintain any independence. And if you try to leave, if you try to create distance, they'll use every emotional manipulation tactic in the book. They'll cry, they'll threaten, they'll make you feel guilty for having boundaries. They'll remind you of everything they've done for you, every vulnerable moment they've shared, every secret you've told them. Jealousy consumes these Scorpios. They're jealous of your friends, your family, your co-workers, anyone who takes your attention away from them. They're jealous of your past, your exes, your life before you met them. They're even jealous of your future, of your dreams and goals, if those don't include them front and center. This jealousy comes from deep insecurity. They don't believe they're lovable, so they're constantly looking for proof that you're going to leave. And ironically, their jealousy and possessiveness often create exactly what they fear. They push people away with their intensity and then use that abandonment as proof that they were right all along. The emotional blackmail is subtle but constant. They'll make you feel responsible for their emotional state. If they're upset, it's because of something you did or didn't do. If they're happy, it's because you finally did something right. They weaponize their sensitivity. They'll use their tears, their pain, their past trauma as tools to control your behavior. You can't be honest with them about your feelings because they'll fall apart. You can't set boundaries because that hurts them. You end up walking on eggshells, managing their emotions instead of living your own life. When third decan Scorpios are hurt, and they're always feeling hurt about something, they don't just move on. They steep in it. They ruminate. They obsess. They replay every moment over and over. They'll bring up things from years ago in current arguments. They keep score just like the first decan, but instead of plotting revenge, they use past hurts as weapons in emotional warfare. They know exactly how to twist the knife, how to make you feel like you're the worst person in the world for causing them pain, even if what you did was completely reasonable or even necessary for your own well-being. The codependency is real. These Scorpios often end up in relationships where they're either the caretaker, completely enmeshed in someone else's problems as a way to avoid their own. or they're the one being taken care of. Finding partners who enable their emotional dependency. Either way, there's no healthy boundary, no sense of where they end and the other person begins. They confuse intensity with intimacy and suffering with love. Here's what makes this especially painful. Third decan Scorpios genuinely do feel everything more deeply than most people. Their emotional capacity is actually a gift when it's channeled properly. They have incredible empathy. They can sit with people in their darkest moments. They understand pain in a way that makes them potentially powerful healers. But when they're stuck in their shadow, all that emotional depth becomes quicksand. They sink into it and pull everyone else down with them. The path forward requires them to learn emotional self-sufficiency. They need to understand that other people cannot fill the void inside them. They have to learn to sit with their own emotions without immediately externalizing them onto someone else. They need therapy, real therapeutic work that helps them process their trauma instead of performing it. They have to develop an identity separate from their wounds to see themselves as more than the sum of their pain. When they can do this, when they can transform their emotional intensity into emotional intelligence, they become incredibly powerful. They can help others navigate their own emotional depths. They can create art that moves people. They can love with a depth that's rare and beautiful. But until then, they remain trapped in cycles of emotional dependency, draining themselves and everyone around them. So there you have it. The three dark sides of Scorpio. Three completely different ways this sign can self-destruct and take others down with them. The Obsessive Avenger, consumed by revenge and unable to let go. The Illusionist Manipulator, lost in escapism and deception. The Emotional Vampire, drowning in feelings and pulling others under with them. Now, here's what I need you to understand. These shadow traits don't make Scorpios bad people. They make them human. We all have shadow sides, dark aspects of our personality that emerge when we're wounded, scared, or operating from our lowest selves. The difference with Scorpio is that they feel everything with such intensity that their shadows are deeper, darker, more consuming than most. But here's the beautiful thing about Scorpio. Transformation is literally their superpower. They're the phoenix, the sign of death and rebirth. They have the capacity to face their shadows, to do the hard inner work, to transform their darkness into light. A healed Scorpio is one of the most powerful, loyal, and transformative people you'll ever meet. They'll fight for you, protect you, see you in ways no one else can. They'll help you face your own shadows because they've faced their own. If you're a Scorpio watching this, I hope you can see yourself in one of these descriptions without judgment. Understanding your shadow is the first step to transforming it. If you love a Scorpio, I hope this helps you understand what they're battling internally. These behaviors aren't about you. They're about wounds that existed long before you came along. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop your birth date in the comments. Let me know which decan you fall into and tell me if this resonated. Be honest. This is a safe space to acknowledge our shadows. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.